It is the third week of the month, and that means MattyCollector.com ships out their subscriptions, and I've gotten the latest DC Signature Collection or Club Infinite Earths subscription figures. Previously, we've looked at John Constantine, and now we're going to take a look at a favorite character of mine, Uncle Sam, and he comes with Dollman as on the package. A little accessory there. So here's the mailing box. We open it up. We get the little display box. You get some nice art on the side there and a fuller picture of the art. And you get the write-up of the bio for Uncle Sam. And taking a look at the figure here. And I guess first we'll take a look at the only accessory that he comes with, and that is Dollman, who is a non-posable little figure in the vein of the other small figures that have come with several other figures in the DC Universe Classics line and in the Signature line, like the Atom. There's the small Elastigirl, and I believe that's it. He is about the size of would be the size of a 12-inch doll. I believe he's only supposed to be about 6 inches. So he is a little bit bigger than I thought. I'm not going to spend much time on him. We're going to focus this time on Uncle Sam here, because we got a lot to cover with him. Now, sculpt-wise, this is pretty much just a reuse, total reuse of the Joker and Gentleman Ghost body. He's got the new hands, in fact the same hands that Constantine has. You can see there the veins line up on both hands. It does give him a little bit of these meat hook hands. When you look at them, you know, they are just a little bit too big for the body. Now, I have noticed that mine, the first time I've ever had a quality control problem with the DC subscription line, is this arm seems to be very, I guess, put upon. There's cracking in the paint there, and as you can see, there's scraping on the inside here of the paint as well. So that has worried me. His arm here is a little bit loose. I do like the paint job on this. It's an excellent repaint using, of course, the red, white, and blue. Now, unfortunately, the white isn't as vibrant white as I would have liked to have been. It's more that grayish white that that Mattel uses for figures occasionally. I don't know why. I guess it's to give it a little bit more definition than, you know, maybe just a bold white. It would be too, they feel would be too striking and not, I don't know, but it is definitely done for artistic reasons. Just going back to the face sculpt here, I think it's really, really nice, and it incorporates several versions of the Uncle Sam figure in the comics. His hair is quite long, and very reminiscent of his Vertigo appearance. And his hat is nice that it's not removable, which I don't mind, because Zatanna has a removable hat, and that thing will never stay on the top of her head, so I'd rather it just be permanently affixed to his head. I do have one problem, though. His head is a little bit loose on the buck there, so he's got a bit of a bobble head. His head does go left and right, up and down a little bit, but of course it kind of bobbles, so it doesn't really stay anywhere, which is unfortunate. His arms do go all the way around, out to the side, rotate at the bicep, bend at the elbow, and he rotates at the wrist. He has the waist ab crunch articulation, waist articulation. He does not have. The legs do go forward, back, out to the side. They rotate at the thigh there, bend at the knee, and his feet do bend forward and back just a little bit because of the way the pant leg is sculpted. I would have liked to have seen some type of flag accessory or something else that was patriotic included with this guy. I mean, he doesn't have much going on in the way of his powers. He's kind of got super strength and near invulnerability, so he really doesn't need weapons, but just for the sort of patriotic theme going with him, with the character, I think it would have been cool to have included a flag that he could have held. Dollman is okay. Uncle Sam, he first appeared in National Comics #1, most appropriately, and at that time he was not owned by DC, but by a smaller company called Quality Comics, and they first appeared in around 1940, and his comics was one of the first that they did. They had a whole line, which eventually, in the 70s, DC acquired from them as they were going out of business. So, they managed to have their own series, and with Crisis on Infinite Earths were brought into the DC universe as a whole. So, Uncle Sam has started out as a spiritual entity created by the Founding Fathers, and he was bound to some sort of talisman. I forget what it was, but he would take physical form by merging with a dying patriot, and thus come forth and be able to protect the United States of America, which he did during each war, including the Civil War, which he actually split into two different entities, the personifications of both the Union and the Confederate States, Johnny Rab and Yankee Dan, or something like that. It wasn't until 1870 they took this form that you see here, or with the white hair, beard, and these pinstripe suit. This look was made popular by several cartoonists to represent the personification of America. Uncle Sam that looked like this during World War I and during World War II, which was the one that was in the old 40s Quality series. Like I said, when when DC did acquire the quality characters in the 70s, they gave them their own series called the Freedom Fighters. They put them all together, teamed them up, and sent them off on to this alternate Earth called Earth X, where the World War II was won by the Axis, and they went on to form an underground resistance movement in present-day Nazi-controlled world of the 1970s in this alternate universe. Of course, that all ended when the Crisis merged all the worlds together, and they were fit back into the DC universe as a whole. The Uncle Sam of that time was still the same Uncle Sam that had been around since World War II. And he really didn't change until, I guess, the late 90s, early 2000s. For a while, they tried out a new look for him as the Patriot. It didn't really take, because he came back as Uncle Sam with a whole new legacy group of the Freedom Fighters. Unfortunately, during Infinite Crisis, they were killed off by the Secret Society of Supervillains, and it seems like Sinestro was the one who actually killed Uncle Sam by beating him up. But if you notice in the next issue, that was issue 1. In issue 2, they're strung up on the Washington Monument as a warning to other supergroups to stay out of the Secret Society's business. He's missing. Well, it turns out that he's regenerated. He then gathers a whole brand new Freedom Fighters, which were actually created by someone who might be tied to his origin of Father Time. And Father Time was part of this shadow government organization called SHADE. So Father Time created all these new versions of Freedom Fighters specifically to deal with a threat and get the Uncle Sam here to be reborn and lead them and save the country. Father Time is back in the new 52, but this time he's somehow a little girl, looks like a little girl, and runs SHADE. It's a much more benevolent SHADE, I guess, but Uncle Sam is nowhere to be seen in the new 52. However, there have been appearances in the limited series of Phantom Lady, a new Doll Man, and Human Bomb. So we might see more mini-series featuring, Black Condor, Uncle Sam. Since the 2000s, the Freedom Fighters have been exclusively left to Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti, and they seem to really enjoy writing these characters, or at least trying to write these characters, because not all the stuff that they do is actually pretty good. Now, I mentioned that there is a Vertigo Uncle Sam, which is a 2-issue prestige series written by Steve Darnell and wonderfully painted by Alex Ross. But it's more of a satire on the modern politics and the morals of the U.S. Basically, Uncle Sam is portrayed as like a homeless guy who has to go through and see what or figure out what the American dream is now, with all this, horrible stuff that happens in the 1990s, early 2000s when the series came out. I don't think you can talk about the comic book character of Uncle Sam without talking about the fictional folk and pop character that basically inspired somebody to create a superhero based around that folk hero or image. And of course the legend is that the Uncle Sam thing started when there was a meat supplier for the army who would pack all the stuff and would use the initials US to basically market where it was going. Since it was going to the United States, that was the the person who had ordered the stuff, the government, and I guess someone somewhere was unloading or loading the stuff and wondered what the U.S. stood for, and they said Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam was the guy named Sam Wilson, who was the meat packer that provided the meats that they were loading up. So, and like I said, he was used in different incarnations throughout the early 1800s or late 1800s, but you don't really get what we think of the modern Uncle Sam until a 1916 recruitment poster for the Army, done by a guy aptly named James Montgomery Flagg. And that's, of course, the one where he's going, "I want you," pointing at the people who would be walking by the poster. And, of course, that is pretty much the image that we think of when we think of Uncle Sam there. I just really didn't connect it before, but, the real Uncle Sam was supposed to be Samuel Wilson. The partner of Captain America was the Falcon, and his name was actually Sam Wilson too. So anyway, I guess that'll be it for Uncle Sam and little doll man here. And stay tuned for the next month's figures. And until then, I'll see ya.